Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and welcome back to another State of the Game recap. This is for State of the Game number 151 on March 11th, 2020. Today we had Chris Gansler as the host instead of Hamish. He's another community developer if you were unaware, and he had Drew, Yannick, and Trick on. And so I really wanted to cover this State of the Game because this is a big one. It's the week after Warlords is launched, and so there's a lot of ongoing discussions in the community right now about issues like difficulty and the loot, and they really addressed most of those topics in this State of the Game today, so I think it's important for everyone to listen to this information, and so hopefully that can subside some people's concerns and fears about what's going on. So yeah, let's hop right into it. They started with priority alerts. There was a maintenance on Tuesday yesterday that, among all the changes, fixed gear set blueprints not dropping, and they also fixed some back-end things like the Restorer Hive not healing. So that's definitely a nice one. I noticed that on my healer build that not all the charges were healing properly, so that's good that that's fixed. There's also another maintenance coming tomorrow on Thursday. It's going to be about an hour and a half long, starting at 10 a.m. CET, which is 2 a.m. on the West Coast and 5 a.m. on the East Coast, if that pertains to you. And among those changes, there are fixing the NPCs not dropping crafting materials, clan and social lists not working properly, and the Capitol building on Legendary difficulty apparently had a progression bug, and so that's going to be ironed out. And there's a lot of other things that they are looking at, but is not going to be in that maintenance tomorrow. Hopefully it's coming soon. Among those things, there is the DZ infinite loading screens, long matchmaking queues, gear set talents not working properly, sound issues, group revive issues, non-accessible bounty locations, manhunt issues, season caches being contaminated when you earn them in the DZ, as well as season XP not being rewarded in the DZ. And they really wanted to remind everyone that when you report these types of bugs, it's really helpful for them if you're super specific, like if you were playing solo or in a group, or what enemies you were fighting, what activities you were doing. It just helps them really figure out where the root cause of the problem is. So if you're on Reddit or the forums reporting these bugs, make sure you do that, because that really helps them out quite a bit. So then they went into the developer interview, and they started by saying that the season has begun. If you guys didn't know, yesterday on Tuesday, Season 1 launched, starting with the first boss of the Manhunt, Neptune. And so they clarified how the system works. They said if you defeat Neptune, but then you reset your world difficulty, all of the progress leading up to him resets. And by progress, I mean all of the activities you have to do, they reset so you can replay them. But it should not, I want to stress, should not reset your overall progress on the Manhunt. You should still have the completion reward for killing Neptune, but there is a bug with that right now, and I will get into that in just a sec. So they said once you defeat him, you get permanent progression, but there is a UI bug right now saying the Jupiter Manhunt is at 0% when in fact you do have credit for killing him. They want you to be able to replay these seasonal activities. That's why they reset upon world difficulty switch. But the mid-progress world tier changes and directive changes have a lot of issues right now with unintentional changes to joining friends, co-op, and etc. And this is really dumb because I had this happen to me. I had done all of the activities leading up to doing Neptune, and I wanted to see if I could get his bounty on Heroic instead of Normal. So I switched my world difficulty, and now I have to redo all of it. And yeah, it's really dumb. I'm not looking forward to doing that. So that's something they're working on, but be aware that if you try and switch your world difficulty before you kill him, you will have to redo all of it. So don't do that. They said that directives turning on and off when you join groups and fast travel and all that is being looked into. They want the UI to be more clear for resetting the Manhunt, like I was just talking about. They agree that it's dumb that your progression gets reset when you're in the middle of doing it, and so they're looking into changing it and fixing it. They said control points with difficulty resets aren't always working. The intended way that happens is when you get a control point under your friendly control, then it stays that way until either you reset it with a global difficulty change, the weekly Black Tusk invasion can reset them, as well as the seasonal target invasions like with Neptune in the Upper West Side on this week. But as it is right now, they are not always working like under that system, so they're taking a look at that. They showed off the season timeline. They said there's going to be new things every week. First is the target of Neptune right now, and the first league comes out next week with time missions for the same ones that you have to do for Neptune. So like the Federal Emergency Bunker, the DCD headquarters, all of those will have time trials that will progress you in this league that is coming next week. They said that the leagues last for 2 weeks, and among the rewards you get from them are an exotic cache, an exclusive backpack trophy, and a lot of other of those seasonal caches, so that's going to be pretty nice. The first global event is coming in 2 weeks, and that is Polarity Switch. They showed off some gameplay for that in a previous State of the Game, and they said that you can opt in or out of it, and it does coincide with the league, So in that second week, you could get faster times if you are really good at this polarity switch global event. They also said soon after that, the Urban Jungle Apparel event is coming. You can actually go in-game right now into the season menu and see the entire timeline for this 3-month season, and it'll tell you the dates when all of these things are coming. So if you want to see all of that, just go in-game and go to that season tab in your menu. They talked about the Exotic Coyotes mask, which is at level 35 of the season reward track, and they said that later, after the season ends, it'll be added into the loot drop pool, probably from a certain boss. So yeah, that's good obviously for people who didn't play the season. They will still, of course, have a chance to get that exotic. They showed how to claim the Season 1 Premium Pass. So basically, they gave the premium track to everyone this season, but after the season, so for 2, 3, and everything after that, it will usually cost $10. But it's free this season, and if you didn't claim it yet and you've already progressed in the season, it is retroactive, so you just have to go in the store and claim the free pass, and then you'll get all the rewards that you didn't thus far. So then they moved on to pretty much the biggest topic in the community right now, and that is PvE difficulty. And they put Drew at the head of this to talk about it, and I think Drew's a legend. He's quickly become probably my favorite dev just because he's, very down to earth. He really explains things to people, and he's just a very nice guy. So Drew went ahead with this one. He said basically there are 3 subtopics when you're talking about difficulty in Warlords. There's the general difficulty for balancing, which is the different modes like hard, challenging, etc., and that affects armor, health, and time to kill. Then there's also co-op scaling for the number of players that are in your group, and that also touches armor and damage as well. And then the third subtopic is the DZ time to kill. So starting with that last one, they said the DZ time to kill is a little quick, and that's not the intention. It's being looked into to make longer, but they for sure want to make it not so long that that really affects build diversity. They want to keep all the diverse builds in there while also making PvP a little bit more fair, so that's good. Then they moved on to the second subtopic, which is PvE difficulty. So obviously that's normal, hard, challenge, heroic, and legendary. They said hard is close to where they want it to be, but when you get into challenging and above, it gets a bit overtuned, and the plan is to moderately turn it down without making it a non-challenge. But currently all reds is the only way to win, and they definitely want that to not be the case. So then they moved on to the third subtopic, which is co-op scaling. So they said that a lot of people have always had this idea that, well, instead of making enemies more tanky or deal more damage when you up the number of players in your group, just make more enemies, and that'll inherently increase the challenge. They said really you can't just multiply the number of enemies in a room. This really for 2 reasons. One, due to the server infrastructure, you can't just put 100 ads into one room, and also the room sizes. If you're in, DCD and you're in the morgue at the bottom, you can't just put 100 enemies in there, it just wouldn't work. So they do increase the enemy's lethality, and that comes through damage and armor of them. They said with the issues right now, it's really not too noticeable on red ads, but when you get to veterans and elites, they get a larger buff in lethality, and they are overtuned in a big way when you are in 3 or 4 person groups. So that's where a lot of people are seeing these issues right now, and that's why you see all these posts about people saying that the difficulty is way too overtuned. The devs confirmed it definitely is. It's not intended, and so they are looking to fix it. And they said all 3 of those subtopics, all of these combined factors make the encounters that we're experiencing, and that is why people are not having a good time. They said that heroic is really meant to be a real challenge, and it won't be significantly tuned in this change except for the game-wide scaling issues with the number of people in your group. They said legendary won't be touched too much either. I'm a little bit bummed about that because I think it is really hard right now on console, but we'll have to wait and see until everyone gets super min-max builds. We'll see how it goes then. The dev said that they are happy the difficulty is back in the form of turning up the mission difficulty and having it actually be a challenge, and so am I. I'm totally on board with that being a thing because I think it makes the game actually interesting. However, it's definitely not too fun when you get a full group and then the ads just become near invincible. That's not fun. They're fixing that, but they're trying to keep the essence of the difficulty of the mission, which I think is a good thing. The time to be killed is being looked at too. They said a lot of the specific enemy units they're going to fix, like the Warhound minigun, as a lot of people experience, is way too strong. That's one of the things they're tuning down. They said build diversity and red favored builds are going to be directly impacted by these fixes. These changes will take a while. It may be in multiple phases, they said. They wouldn't want it to be rushed and then make everything too easy because it's hard to come back from that. If everything's too easy and then you make it harder, a lot of people are going to be unhappy with that. So what they want to do is release parts of these fixes in phases so that then people can test it and let them know if they got it right or not, which it's going to take a little while, but then we'll get to the best place possible, and so that's what's good in the end. And they said these issues have not been affecting the raid because it's a separate scaling system, so doing the raid is pretty much as intended right now, so that's a good thing. And lastly, they touched on loot quality, perhaps not as much as everyone wanted, but they said purple loot dropping from challenging NPCs and above is not intended, so that's going to be looked at. And they said that purple drops from caches are unintentional because the caches aren't actually scaling with the difficulty of the mission you're doing, so they're going to fix that. And lastly, they said they did not have a PTS for Warlords because it would have delayed the launch and prematurely spoiled some of the narrative content, because some people were saying, well, why didn't you just test this stuff in the beginning? Really, and I'm not trying to make a case for justifying the devs, coming out with this expansion and having these difficulty issues, but you can't test everything. They have, 100 or a few hundred testers versus the millions of players that play it once it goes live. They're not going to find everything. I get that this is really frustrating. I think it's frustrating too, but I also think that people are making these posts on Reddit. They're getting thousands of uplikes saying that the devs are basically the spawns of Satan. I think it's kind of much, but hopefully hearing this news, people should be reassured that these things are going to get fixed. And in the meanwhile, we have a lot of new content and new things to do. So hopefully that should keep people interested for the time being. So that's all for the State of the Game recap today, guys. There wasn't much in the way of news, but again, I thought it was very important to cover this because they address so many of the issues and discussions that people are having in the community right now. Thank you very much if you stuck around until the end. We are super close to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm very hyped for that. I'm going to be doing a giveaway once we do hit 1K, so keep your eyes on the channel for that. Leave your thoughts on the devs, explanations, and plan of action for these issues in the comments. I definitely want to hear what you have to say about it. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you can be updated every time I upload. Until the next one, guys, RogueGold, out.